Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And in today's video, I'm just going to do a story time about how God showed me I was an angry people pleaser. And I'm also going to give you 5 things that I'm currently implementing to overcome that. All right, so I think one day I was scrolling on TikTok and I saw someone ask, they were telling a story about how she asked God how he saw her. So me, I'm like, that's a great question. Let me see. Let me see, because I know how I see myself, and I know others have their perspective of how they see me. But let me ask to see how God sees me. So, and if you see me looking down, I got some notes. But I was praying one day and I was like, Lord, how do you see me? And right then and there, he didn't answer. So I was like, okay. All right. So I think the next day I went to a baby shower and they just started like screaming at me, but they were like not, they weren't trying to be rude about it. And then I think the next day after that, I went to work and I just asked a simple question about how to get into my email. And it's like they just start yelling at me and I'm thinking in my head, like, Lord, what's going on? Like, why are these people just screaming at me for no reason? But they were helping me. They were like, but they were helping me do whatever I needed. And then I think the last thing, I can't really remember what it was, but it was just the moral of that is people were screaming at me, but they were doing what I needed them to do. So in my mind, I forgot that I had asked God, like, how do you see me? And so I was scrolling on TikTok and it was just like, if you do this, that means you're an angry people pleaser. And I was like, Lord, I'm an angry people pleaser. That's how you see me. So what I took from that is that he was showing me how I'm people pleasing for others and doing what they need me to do. But in actuality, sometimes I don't want to do it, but I know I'm like, well, I don't want them to feel away because I can't do it. And it would make me angry. I didn't know I was angry to that capacity, but it was making me angry. So he was showing me that I was an angry people pleaser. And on my journey with God, he is healing me from a lot of things. So I had to look within to see, where is this people pleasing stemming from? And it stems from my childhood. It stems from my mother. I love my mother. Don't get me wrong. I love her. But when we were younger, she was going through her own thing. And as I get older, I understand, like, okay, I understand what you were going through. That was a lot. But it was to the point where we wanted to avoid conflict, with her to, make sure she was happy, make sure, we weren't getting yelled at and things like that. So it kind of stemmed from wanting to not make my mother mad and make sure that we're doing everything right, and so that we don't get in trouble, to basically avoid conflict. And also in outside settings, so it made me do that throughout my whole life, as in when I deal with friends and relationships and just different things like that. I'm people pleasing without even realizing, but I'm angry because it's like, I don't want to do that. I just want to be able, I want to, don't get me wrong, I want to help, but I don't want to feel like I'm made to help, or for lack of better words. Yeah. So yeah, moral of the story, that's what it is. So I was also looking in depth into people pleasing, and a couple ways that you may be experiencing people pleasing without even knowing is the fear of rejection, being abandoned, rejected, or disliked. And nobody wants to be rejected, honestly. So when you have that fear of a rejection, it just makes you not want to be have conflict with anyone because you don't want to be rejected. You don't do certain things because it's like, well, what if I don't get it? What if I don't, what if it doesn't go the way that I think? That's the fear of rejection. Also, low self esteem. When you have low self esteem, you're believing your value comes from being useful. Um, I might have said that wrong. Low self esteem, believing your value only comes from being useful or liked. So you feel as like if you're doing this, that's the only way that you'll be liked. So you're not moving in your authenticity. So you're not moving authentic, basically. Also past trauma like bullying, neglect, and also emotional abuse plays a part on people pleasing because it's like you don't want to make anyone upset, mad. So you're trying to make sure everything is okay. Desire to control. That was another thing. When you are people pleasing, you don't realize that you're trying to control how people think about you, how their opinion on you. You don't want them to have a negative opinion. So you're trying to make sure you do everything that they, want so they can be like, oh, well, I love her. She's not perfect because she did this, this, this. But in all honesty, you're trying to control how they think and feel about you. And the last one is empathy overdrive. There we are. Me personally, I am an empathetic person. I can feel others' energy. So you kind of struggle to see others unhappy even at your own expense. So it's like you'll make sure they're okay before you make sure you're okay. All right, so now I'm going to give you the 5 ways to overcome that and what I'm using to overcome that. Number one is set boundaries. That was my biggest thing for last year, setting boundaries, saying no. When I first started saying no, it was super hard. I'm just gonna be honest. It was super hard. I felt bad because I'm like, well, I can help them, but it's like at the same time, when you say yes to something, be ready to con- continuously say yes. And setting boundaries and saying no is not a bad thing. Honestly, you need boundaries because if not, you will run yourself ragged. You will run yourself dry. So practice saying no. Like just practice saying no. And remind yourself that setting boundaries is not selfish. It's not selfish to set boundaries. It's setting how you want people to treat you and knowing that if you don't want to do something and you say no and they make you feel bad for it, I can't help that. Um, because God tells us in the Bible, in the five fruits, to be kind. He did not say nice, He said kind. So there's a way to go about anything. You don't have to be rude with your no. Just you can be like, well, I'll think about it. I'll get back to you, or thanks for the offer, but out of time. And just as simple as that. It's not rude. It's just letting them know. Number two is identify and challenge your motivation. So, like I said, I had to reflect and understand why I was people pleasing. Like, where did it stem from? So, you need to identify when and where did the people pleasing start for you. Um, was it fear of rejection? Was it guilt? Was it need of approval? It's many different things that can stem from people pleasing. And also, yeah. And also another thing, you have to remember that your you have to remind yourself your worth doesn't depend on the opinions of others. And sometimes, it's a human thing to be like, well, I don't want them to think this about me or I don't want them to think that. Okay, I can't control that. I shouldn't try to control how they feel because if they're for me, then they'll understand. Number three, prioritize your own needs. Make a habit to ask yourself, what do I need in this situation? And guide your decisions instead of others' expectations. So understanding that when you say no, it's not to be rude. It's just honestly either you can or can't do it or you don't desire to. And if they get upset and don't want to deal with you because of that, then you got to move on, and move on and be around people who understand your boundaries. And you also want to be around people who have boundaries as well, because you understand, like, oh, they will understand your boundaries because they have boundaries and they don't want you to cross their boundaries while crossing yours. So, another thing, I would always pray and ask God to remove the spirit of people pleasing off of you and to work on the different steps to not people pleasing. Number 4 is tolerate discomfort. Like I said, when I first started saying no to things, it was very uncomfortable for me. But I learned that it's okay. If they're for me, they will stay. If not, then it is what it is. So stay calm, remind yourself healthy relationships can have occasional disagreements. It's okay. You're not always going to see eye to eye. You can't control how they feel about a situation or a moment, and that's okay. Number 5, seek support. Surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and encourage you to be authentic. Be kind to yourself when you slip up. Change takes time. Celebrate your progress, even if it's small. Becoming someone you've never been before takes time, but it's so worth it. So you have to give yourself grace when you are trying to heal from a lot of things that you've been through in your life, because your old person to your new person is going to be feel different, and that's okay. But who is supposed to be around you, who is supposed to be for you, God will place them in your life when they need to be in your life. So don't worry about it. It's okay. Like I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser, and every day is just it just takes time. But I am growing and I love how I'm growing. I'm glad that I am on this journey with God and He's letting me know things that I need to heal from and how to heal from it and to keep going, because it's healing and leaving your old self behind. That's a whole nother video in itself. But if you are a recovering people pleaser, drop it down in the comments. It's okay. We're out here, but God, He is working it out and everything is going to be okay. Saying no is not a bad thing. It's not selfish, because I had to realize I was a people pleaser because I was seeking validation, wanting to be liked, and I wasn't being myself. I was, but at the same time I wasn't. I was neglecting myself. I was making sure everyone else was okay, but I was neglecting what did I need? What did Parisha need? What did I need? And also, I wasn't letting God pour into me. So I was filling up everybody else's cup, but leaving mine's dry. So when I stopped filling up everybody's cup and let God fill up my cup, I was able to pour what I had, the overflow of what God was pouring into me. Now I'm able to pour it into the cups that He's telling me to pour into. That's another thing. You have to be mindful, because sometimes we have people and things in our life that don't even need to be in our life and it's running us dry. So when we let God pour into us, we're able to pour that overflow into other cups and not run dry. So if you like this video and you would like to see more about my journey, just leave a comment below, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back in another video. Y'all have a great one. Bye.